Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like a particularly sunny day in Lausanne today. We're extremely happy that you're here joining us in person. This panel, which is Blockchain for Good, is around the theme of capturing value, both social as well as environmental impact. Just to give you a little bit of rationale about why we're really doing this panel is that we know blockchain technology and its innovative communities have the potential to provide solutions to achieve our sustainable development goals. So we understand that blockchain enables us, new models as well as new ways of solving the problems as well as the developmental challenges that we face today. So this session will basically explore how Web3 is connecting changemakers around the world towards measurable impact. And with me, I have 5 fantastic changemakers who will shortly introduce themselves, as well as tell you their stories and what they're building. Before we get started on that, I will start with my quick introduction. Hey everyone, my name is Trishala. So I am an impact lead at SmartChain, a Web3 consultancy based out of Paris. And I run an interdisciplinary research lab called Debug Lab, which basically aims to catalog as well as catalog the use cases around blockchain for good, and to create an open source digital public good whereby everybody can see how this technology is creating change, but also how, with examples like this, you can actually take it to scale and reach a wider audience. So with that being said, let me turn to the person on my left, which is Marcus. Marcus, let's go for it.
Thanks, Trish. And I really liked your theme around Web3 is bringing changemakers together. Thanks for the Cardano Foundation to bring me here also on stage, since I'm not working on not building Cardano, I'm working on Celo, a different layer 1 blockchain that is also a proof of stake consensus. I'm an economist, so I studied economics. I started to work in research in economics, did a PhD in economics, and then again worked in research. And now for 5 years I'm working on Celo. And with Celo, we started out with a very mission-driven approach with a focus on financial inclusion, using Web3 technology to give people better access to financial primitives, and also from the start with the mission of building a very sustainable blockchain. And I think today we talk a lot about the inclusion, the doing good, also a lot about sustainability. And with sustainability, we can touch 2 things. First of all, the energy consumption of a blockchain, and with proof of stake networks using less energy than some proof of work networks, we can talk about that, but we can talk also about that, what we can do as a Web3 community to set the right incentives to do more for the planet. Yesterday, we've seen in the COP conference that the traditional system probably doesn't find the right solutions to, for example, solve the climate crisis that we see. And maybe us here in Web3, the different communities, the Celo community, the Cardano community, can move closer together to solve that. Under my name, we also have, you can also see Mento next to Celo. Mento is a stable asset platform that is currently only living on Celo, but we now spun this off. And as a stable asset platform, in future, it can live on any other layer 1 as well. So we really want to have cross-chain enabled stable currencies in different currencies. Next up is Mickey.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Thank you very much, Trish. I'm Mickey Watkins. I build mobile networks. I build mobile networks because 2.9 billion, sometimes you'll hear me say 3 billion, previously you hear me say 3.7 billion, but I'm going with what the ITU say here. People are unconnected on the planet. That's not correct. All of us in here, I'm pretty sure, except from Duncan, who doesn't have a telephone from IO, everybody else is probably connected, if not on Wi-Fi, then on their roaming SIM card. We are building mobile networks across Africa, across North America, across Europe, because this problem is a grand problem for everybody. It's primarily in the emerging markets, but it also affects people like James Bowater, who lives in London in Canary Wharf, or it also affects people like Liz in Sacramento. It also affects people like me in Barcelona, and I'm not sure about Torben, but probably does as well. And I'm sure all of you drive, you're on the phone, and all of a sudden you lose signal. It's because mobile networks haven't been built properly. So we're building mobile networks properly, and we're building on the blockchain. We're building a system where everybody can be involved to be part of this global mobile network operator through blockchain. Thank you.
Thanks, Mickey. Next up, we have Duncan from Veritree.
Hey, everyone. I'm Duncan from Veritree. I'm the blockchain engineer, and I joined the team right as Veritree was getting started. Now, Veritree was created to prove all of the planting that its sister company, 10tree, was doing was legitimate and authentic, and the trees were still alive. So we started the company in 2019 with this question that we needed to answer. It was, how do we prove that the planting we're doing actually occurs? How do we prove that we've only planted one tree and counted it once? And how do we prove that the trees are still alive? So quite a broad question to try and tackle, but we've built a system in which we are able to authenticate when the planting occurs, and then validate that it happens, and then publish all of that in an NFT on the blockchain. And I'm really excited to tell you more about it.
Thanks, Duncan. Now we have Mariana.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me as well. Doing a pitch in like 5 minutes is going to be tough, but I'm going to try to keep it concrete. I'm a lawyer, and before actually working on crypto, I was working in human rights. And I moved to crypto because I saw the potential of the technology actually to support human rights, but also like work on environmental and social impact topics. So it's not in the name, but I also work for the IOTA Foundation, the regulatory affairs manager, and I'm also the co-chair of the social impact and sustainability working group of INATPA. And I guess that when we are talking about like impact or like blockchain for good, we just need to just like see what is going on, not in the foundations itself, but actually with our community members, because they are the ones deploying the solutions that can push this forward actually, and not only SDGs, but actually like beyond that, like what is happening with the digitalization of the energy right now in Europe, for example, as well. So there's a variety of topics really interesting there, but like for time, I think that I'm gonna pick like only a couple. And I think that like our details, the foundations, not only IOTA, but Cardano, and I saw Algorand early today, is actually support our community members so they can not only deploy, but scale their projects. And we have an interesting program in IOTA called Touch Points, where we provide like this kind of support to the community projects. We help them with support in terms of like creating the business plan or approaching investors or actually understand how they can deploy the projects better. One of the things that I hope we can talk about later is actually how we can enhance or like support those projects to become multi-change, but because we need to enhance interoperability among protocols and work together to actually scale the project to a global level so they can actually create the impact that they're meant to. And within NADPA, we are doing like really cool things. So just a little bit of history. Since 2019, we started conducting a survey to ask projects from different ecosystems what were the challenges that they were facing, were trying to achieve SDGs or deploy solutions for social impact. And of course, interoperability was one of them, access to funds was one of them, but then we saw two where actually NADPA could help them. And one of them was that there was not a unified definition of what they were describing as social impact. So everyone's talking about different things. And it's really important we unified. So not only we understand each other inside a bubble of like crypto and DLT, but actually people outside the bubble can see the potential of these projects for the projects that they are doing. So we created a definition that is going to be published at the end of this month, and we tried to just like actually like share the definition with everyone. So we start as a community of blockchain projects talking about social impact. And the other thing was about impact measurement, which you mentioned. And one of the things that we realized is that, of course, you have like ISO and you have IRIS, but like these standards are really complex and expensive to be compliant with. So small projects do not have the potential to actually like like enhance or connect with these impact measurement systems since early stage, and it's really important to show impact because that can drive investment into the project so they can grow. So we did define a series of steps that you can start like following and pay attention to, and even though if you're in a small project, so you can start like showing your impact to investors and make it easy for the transition once you grow and you actually need to be compliant, so you can do the switch and stay with them. And one thing that I wanted to bring here and actually invite like the Cardano community projects to join is a new initiative that we started within ADPA. We joined, it has the backup of the United Nations General Assembly, and it's called Blockchain 100+. And basically what we did is create a committee of like different organizations in ADPA, GBBC, Blockchain for Good, Positive Blockchain are there as well. And what we are doing is a manifesto of what is the vision of like all these different industry players about how blockchain can enhance the UN Charter values. And we have a mapping exercise that we are conducting with in ADPA, Positive Blockchain, and Blockchain for Good, and we already have like over 2,000 projects registered there, and the idea is to have like a super easy, user-friendly place or platform where people can go and see what are the variety of projects and engage with them, but also like see how we can enhance or like can promote cooperation among the different projects so they can scale and move to other regions.
Thank you, Mariana. And now I'll give the floor to obviously Tyler from Emergo.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm happy to be here and excited. Tyler, I'm from Emergo. I work in the FinTech division. I'm the FinTech community lead there. I first started to learn about blockchain around 2016 when Ethereum first started to get some traction. And to tell you the truth, it wasn't for good. It was because I saw it as an opportunity to invest in something. I discovered Cardano in 2017, right when it came out, and I started reading the white papers, really learning about the ecosystem, and I realized there was a huge community that was bubbling up under the surface for Cardano around the why of blockchain, which is why it exists, which is really to push power to the edges and bank the unbanked and underbanked. I started working, and I started getting involved with the Cardano ecosystem fairly heavily in 2020. I started working with Emergo directly in 2022 in January. And right now what we're focused on personally in my division is the launch of a stablecoin, as well as the further development of a Yodori wallet. In addition, Emergo has a few other business units. There's Emergo Academy, which provides courses and training to folks that want to become developers, work in blockchain, and they do that throughout the world with online courses and in person through actual offline courses as well. In addition to that, there's a media division, and that's me. I'm not the media division, but I'm Tyler with FinTech, and then the venture fund. I forgot about that. But there's also a venture division too, where we invest in different startups that are building on Cardano with mission-driven goals. In particular, there's a 100 million fund set aside for projects building in Africa. All right, that's it now.
Thank you, Tyler. But as you can see from these use cases, we have projects that are trying to connect the unconnected as well as bank the unbanked. And so when you look at these are problems that we're facing today, right? So the question I'd like to now pose to all of you, and it's kind of a rapid-fire questionnaire round, is, how do you, well, firstly, let's start with, what do you define as blockchain for good? And how is that kind of integrated into, how has the technology really helped you reach masses? So in that aspect, you can talk about, what's the biggest milestone that you've reached till date with your projects as well? So everybody, you can start. Mr. Telecom can start.
Define good. I guess that's the most important question to ask here. Is it good on a CSR level, on an NGO level, or is it good in terms of mass adoption good? I think we've come to a moment where we can start to see blockchain being brought to the masses without them having to know. Certainly at World Mobile, our end users have no idea. Of course, they know in the terms and conditions. We're not trying to hide it from them, but they have no idea that they're using blockchain. They have no idea they're using a DID. They have no idea that they're actually interacting what's typically been for people who understand computer science or understand and spent the time to be able to go online and to learn how to interact with blockchains. So good is an interesting word, and I think good will be a better word in a year or two's time when the project's actually reaching the people and affecting their lives and changing their lives.
Yeah, sure,
Can I go?
Mariana. Would you like to pitch in as well?
I think that I wouldn't go about so literally the definition of good, but actually the purpose of the projects that we are deploying. And that connects a little bit with the energy debate that we have right now, right? So we are using energy all the time, but actually which type of energy are we using and what is the purpose of using that energy? So I think that is actually those projects that are pushing forward sustainability and social impact are the ones that we need to see as the example or champions of this social for good. And of course, adoption is one of the things, but also it's how we enhance, or how we actually bring together different kind of stakeholders. So just an example really quick, we have a community project called Energy Nip, who is working with the municipalities in the Netherlands. And this is really interesting because the project is being used, they use local currencies, and is used by the municipality to actually distribute relief money to families that have been heavily affected by the energy crisis because of the crisis. So this is a really good example of how we can actually work with governments, which will also help us to just create better regulation that it doesn't just protect consumer, but also enhance that the projects can keep innovating and actually generate the impact that we want in society.
Thank you, Maria. Is there anybody else on the panel? Yes,
Yeah.
Duncan.
Yeah, I have an answer that hasn't been said yet. There are a number of industries that live off of their siloed data, and one of those industries is reforestation and tree planting. And when that happens, there is no secondary audit or public audit, or there's no way to actually go verify that this organization is actually following through with what they claim they are. So we're using blockchain to alleviate or to completely rewrite how NGOs and how purpose-based companies can actually prove their impacts have been done. So we're using the transparency of blockchain to allow for tremendous good to be done and then shown and then proven and audited and actually verified afterwards. So yeah, we're leveraging this new technology to be as transparent as possible.
Thank you. Marcus.
So we've heard now two approaches to this term good you brought up, like the social good or financial inclusion and the environmental good, building sustainable projects. And I think the cool thing about this technology is that we cannot only solve, for example, environmental good by building more energy efficient consensus networks, but with this technology it allows us actually to set the right incentives. Incentives are important in Web3, are also important for me as an economist. Setting the right incentives actually can help a lot. If everyone uses proof of stake instead of proof of work, for example, the climate crisis is probably still not solved. But if we build a financial system or monetary system that includes the cost of natural capital destruction, or that sets the incentives for restoration, sets the incentives of behaving in a good way, then maybe we can move a bit closer to that goal. And that's, for me, what the exciting thing about this technology is, that we can actually do both. We can build more efficient technologies, but we can also set the right incentives for people, behave in a way that is more sustainable, or behave in a way that is good for good.
That is for good. Tyler.
Yeah, so I see blockchain as not necessarily for good or for evil. It's a technology. It's emotionless. It's about the people behind the technology and what they choose to do with it. And we all have a choice how we build, what sort of incentivization mechanisms we build within that blockchain. Is it transparent? Are we creating ways for people to protect their identity? How do we share our identity? How do we build a system that banks the unbanked? How do we give them the financial tools that they need to be successful in their lives? If you look at the history of lots of the different blockchain projects right now, most of the financial applications haven't really been about providing financial tools to the underbanked. It's been more about speculating on very exotic assets and exotic DeFi protocols. And these aren't in the hands of people that are, it's not actually doing any public good. It's allowing people to make lots of money if they already have money and already have cryptocurrency, but it's not bringing identity to people in sub-Saharan Africa. It's not giving people financial tools where they can make easy transactions between their peers without censorship. And going back to what I'm doing personally with Emergo is it's about bringing these tools to the masses so that if you don't have access to a bank, if you don't trust a bank, and you might not want to trust a bank, you'll still have a way to have a stable asset that you can interact with on the Cardano blockchain, which is one of the most decentralized networks in the whole world for blockchains. And you can actually start realizing some financial sovereignty. And that's really the first step.
Thank you, Tyler. You know, with all of that being said, it leads me to another thing, which is, you know, today looking at the current ecosystem, I like for our panelists to kind of share what are the challenges that they face today, and, you know, highlight, you know, it can be the role of communities, but also now that we're just not being like protocol specific, but now we're going cross-chain. There's real collaboration that's happening here. It's yet to come. And if you look at our panelists today as well, there are people building on Cardano. You have Celo or Celo as. So if you'd like to address, you know, this question will be really, I think, educative for our audience here as well to understand what, you know, projects, especially impact projects, face when they're trying to scale. Yes.
Yeah, just going off of what Tyler said just now, you know, in the whole DeFi world that's been here for the last 2.5, 3 years, we as World Mobile have in Zanzibar, we have more customers, but let's talk about Zanzibar right now. We have around 16 to 20,000 customers daily. We cannot find a blockchain project out there that can serve our customers. There are no DeFi protocols that actually come to the end user, right? It's all siloed. It's everybody starting at the top of a pyramid who's very clever, and then they're not using it for good. They're using it to make money. And then some of us in this room have got lucky, or we're advanced and we're smart and we're onto a trend, and all of a sudden we can make money. But actually, where is the end product? Where is the end product for the end user? You know, I've got a whole token team, 7 people out there looking for projects across different chains, and there's nothing to provide our users on the ground. So guess who's building it? World Mobile are building it. That's the challenges that we're facing. The challenges that we're facing is blockchain is very siloed, and it hasn't come into the masses yet, and it hasn't been effective for an end user, for Joe or Harry, or for somebody on the end line that is living off of that $200 a month or $150 a month or $800 a month. What can they do?
I need to jump there because I don't agree. There's actually like really already use cases mostly deployed by the United Nations that are working with the end user. So you have one project that is working with vouchers. I forgot the name, but it's like different organization for the UN coming together to support refugees in like the distribution of goods, and actually it's like the double distribution what they're trying to avoid and make it like more efficient so they can access it faster and when they need it. And also with what you were like talking about this, I have seen projects. We have one called Yanatech, which is doing tokenization of traditional assets, which like they're tokenizing land, and they're actually fractioning the land. So the people that own the land, that normally they don't have access to traditional financial system because of multiple reasons, or they cannot access loans in banks because they don't have the backup guarantee to actually pay back, can use the land they have, tokenizing it, distributed it, get investors, and actually use that money to reinvest it and work the land to actually create like economic sustainability for themselves and become economically independent. So they're really good use cases. I don't think that I am completely against generalizing, so I don't like to say like there's nothing there. There's a lot of things out there. I do agree with your question. There's a lot of challenges. That's what we were trying to identify within Alpha in 2019. And basically what I mentioned, like there's no unified definition of social impact. You ask us what good, like blockchain for good is, everyone provides like different like insights, right? The measurement of the small projects, interoperability, access to funds, and there was one big that they addressed, and it's the lack of education, which was mentioned also today in the other panels. And it's just like, we need to get out of the bubble. Like, I understand that it's silo. I understand that there's a lot of complexity in the topic. And when people don't understand how the technology works, well, they put barriers and they don't want to approach it because it sounds complicated, it's too techy. I don't want to have like anything to do with that. But if you show them that actually they can use the technology to do the projects that they're already implementing faster, better, and achieve like more things, they're gonna be more open to start like deploying these projects. So we also create a guide for NGOs a couple of years ago within ADPA, and it was just like, what NGOs need to do to actually create a wallet, regardless of the protocol, just create a wallet, try to just like receive donations in crypto, see how you can just like start to engage super easy, or like how we bring people that is normally not interested on these topics, interested on these. Sonaverse also create a beautiful campaign to, via NFTs, collect donations to support Ukraine organizations. And it was a really amazing process because the organization, the NGO, needed to create their wallet. And we did all the process with them, or explaining. I got like funny questions of like, I lost my key, can you just resend it? I'm just like, that's not how it works. So like doing all this process with them to educate and understand how it works and how they can actually use these tools to support what they're already doing, I think that that's the key of everything. So I will back up the guys this morning saying that we need to work better and get better in educating people.
Let me please also add to the end user point, because in the end, this was something we also focused from the start. When we started to work on Cello, one of the big focus points was, if we want to build a layer one that is focused on end user adoption, then we have to build features that are mobile first, because as you said, many people on the world don't have access to a traditional bank, but there are 6 billion smartphones in the world. And I think everyone uses a smartphone in most of the countries, and even in the most remote areas, it's getting better and better and better. So we've been focused. We have focused on a mobile adoption from the start, which is extremely difficult. It takes a long time. On Cello, for example, you have a feature that you can link your mobile number to your public key, so that users can find other users via their mobile number, because in many countries this is a form of identifier, especially when you don't have a government-issued ID. And the goal was, and what you can do today now is basically by just knowing the phone number of somebody, you can send them a transaction on Cello, send them, for example, a euro stablecoin or a dollar stablecoin or a Brazilian real stablecoin. It settles within 2.5 seconds, and it costs less than a basis point in fees. The big challenges here are now liquidity in every country, adoption with scale. So, for example, we currently work a lot with Vodafone and Deutsche Telekom and T-Mobile, but working with these traditional organization just takes a lot of time because there are a lot of hurdles. These hurdles are of regulatory nature. There are still a lot of hurdles how users in different countries can cash in, cash out. Cello Foundation has a program which is called Connect the World and Fiat Connect, which is purely focused on cash in, cash out, because it's extremely difficult in many countries to cash in, cash out. And therefore, I think the different projects here on stage and in the audience have to work together, because we all face the same problems: liquidity, cash in, cash out, identity, and so on. And probably in future, we have to solve these problems for all the different chains. So if you have a multi-chain cash in, cash out solution, or a multi-chain identity solution, then this brings all of us further.
Yeah, and thank you for your responses. This actually brings me to another question, is like you mentioned, like working with Vodafone and also other actors that have been present. Now, these are brands that have been, around for a long time, and they're very well known by customers, which are the end users, right? So tell us more about, your cooperation in saying like, hey, we're not just this geeky bubble of like Web3, we understand how wallets work, we understand everything about it, but was there a point where you decided, let's take a step back, let's collaborate with partners, that are already present, just to bridge that gap? So first, how important do you think those efforts are today, especially for mass adoption? And what kind of initiative have you taken towards, bridging that gap?
very good question. And as I said, it's not easy to work with these large traditional players because obviously here in Web3, there are many projects that move super fast. And in these more traditional projects, it not always works like this. But we, for example, now work for 3 years together with Deutsche Telekom and T-Mobile. They have, I think, 400 million mobile clients. They have, for example, 25% market share in the US as a mobile operator. So them offering, for example, remittances from the US to Mexico, which is a $40 billion remittances market, has huge impact because people today have to use Western Union or other like traditional rails that are extremely slow, extremely expensive, and here I think we can make a big difference if these players bring their clients in, because that actually then for us at some point also solves the cash in, cash out problem, the liquidity problems, and can help with real adoption. And for example, Deutsche Telekom really is now focused on this industry as a whole. They just announced a large Web3 focused hackathon, a global hackathon that is now running for a while. So we are very happy about this partnership, but we really now want to move further with them and actually see projects in action around the world.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be clear, they are not going to be the ones that make the difference. It's us in this room and it's us builders out there that are making the difference. To speak with what Mariana said earlier on about the United Nations, we work with the International Telecommunications Union, we work with the GSMA, we work with NGOs, we work with different organizations. But they're talking about it and they're doing it, and the impact of what they're doing is so slow because of the machine that they have, that if we wait for them, maybe it will never happen, maybe it will die out. So we may see 50,000 or 1 million refugees supported with the voucher system. But actually, is that really what we only want to see? That is good. But actually, what we want to see is a global use. And it's us that will drive that. It's not them. And it's us pushing them and telling them and showing them that this isn't all about, sorry, I'm saying the word, FTX, right? This isn't all about Luna. This isn't all about the centralized scams that happen in crypto. This is about open your eyes, look at this new technology, look at what we can do, look at how we can empower you to empower the rest of the world, because you are the people that give it to the rest of the world. But actually, let's reverse. We should empower the rest of the world, and we should be showing them what a good example is. And we've seen, we've hit a $1 trillion industry in crypto so far. But actually, what good have we done, right? Some good, we need to do more good. We need to do more, we need to push people, and we need to work with these organizations. The telecommunication companies, MNOs, I've worked with them for the last 20 years. I've spoken to some of the biggest. As soon as they hear the word crypto, they're hiding. They're running away. You know, and then you say to them, okay, what about mobile money? Africa. I say, oh, what about mobile money? I say, well, the $1 trillion mobile money market, 70% of it is from Africa, right? Let's use blockchain for the right purpose. Let's collaborate, let's work together to actually make a change, to bring a new model to business that we can all be proud of, that we can all be transparent, that can be immutable, that is not void of corruption, because we've seen that it's possible with centralized bodies to be corrupt, but starts that movement moving forward. So it's that mindset, that education that they miss right now. And something that we have to be very active, all of us in this room and globally.
We have to explain it better, what we're doing.
Yeah.
To everyone.
Yeah.
Duncan?
But yeah, if I could just add to that.
Yeah.
I think what really needs to happen is a bit of a change in how businesses are meant to operate, because when the incentive for a business is to establish itself, to grow the market, and then to dominate that market, then there's no incentive for new players to come in and improve processes. And when you look at NGOs running in a similar type of business, running in the same way, it doesn't empower the people that they're serving to get up and replace the NGOs, to come in and take those services over, or to do it in their own way. So it's, I don't know, it's a kind of a larger existential capitalist problem, I think, but we can save that for maybe another chat. But yeah, when we're talking about transparency and aligning incentives, we really need to look at whose incentives are being prioritized, and is it the people that we're trying to serve, or is it the businesses that are saying that they're serving those people?
Well said.
Yeah, I think we'll take with Tyler first, and then Mariana, you can...
Easy.
Okay, yeah, so I just wanted to expand a little bit, or kind of tail add, I guess. But I think the first step is, like Mickey said, it's just getting boots on the ground, being there, and actually trying to make effective change. That's the first step. But the second step is really about creating something that the people that you're trying to help and bring blockchain for good, that they feel like they actually have ownership of that, and they actually feel like they're building it. And that's not easy. I think the Western world often goes into impoverished areas of the world and think they have all of the solutions to all of the problems. And it really just doesn't work. It's the people that have the solutions are the people that are there, and they need to be empowered with the right tools to solve those solutions on their own. And that comes down to education. It comes down to being there and helping. And then it also comes down to essentially going away, giving them the blockchain tools that they need, and then letting them thrive.
Thanks, Tyler. Mariana?
That's really cool, because that's not only a problem of like blockchain projects, that's how the development sector actually works. And I also think that is super problematic, because they just go, implement a solution, and then they leave, and there was not installed capacity in the communities, and at the end, they're like ended worse than before the project. So completely agree with you on that. The name of the project with the UN is Building Blocks. And the numbers are not small. So I think that is a really good example to check out, to actually see how projects can scale. Completely right. They need to keep scaling and actually create mass adoption. Now, to go back to your question about how we engage with other institutions and the industry, I think that what we're talking about here are systemic issues, and systemic issues require systemic approach. So we cannot like pretend that blockchain is going to solve this alone. So basically, we not only need to involve the industry, but we also need to involve policymakers, academia, and a variety of players there. So within NADPA, we have the Academic Advisory Board, which is professors from different universities around the world that support the work that we are doing, review papers, actually like check that what we're doing is based on science and not just like things that we put out of our heads and then we just like print it in a paper, so we don't spread misinformation. And then we have the governmental advisory board, that we have like the government of Canada, we have like some from the MENA region as well, and they participate and engage. We have Samba as well, to just like bring like communities from different regions to actually help us to understand what are the challenges there. And the other example that I wanted to put actually concrete about like these kind of cooperations are the projects that are financed by the EU, sometimes with Horizon 2020. So with IOTA, we have a lot of those projects. One of them is actually supporting sustainable mining, and we are working with like 7 mines, 7, 6? Don't quote me on the number, mines around Europe, where we are like actually showing how via blockchain mining operations can be more sustainable. And this, like the potential of this is like how this pilot can then scale and others can replicate this. And we are talking about like open source. So this is not going to be done for the pilot and that's it. The idea is that then more people can actually use this solution and deploy it in other regions. We have example like that, like with a cool project called TLIP, which is working with African communities in the whole supply chain, which I think that like goes in where you were talking about like changing mindsets of traditional line economy to a more sustainable economy, understanding how the products are moving, where are they moving, how we can like put like more like sustainability practice among the supply chain. But actually the impact of this is to make East African countries more competitive in the global market so they can compete with European market, and then you just like put back this into the economy and grow the economy in the countries. So it's, as I said, like this is a systemic issue and we need to address it as such, and that's why I was like so happy to come here, even though I don't build on Cardano and I'm not so involved, and it's because this is exactly what we need to do. It's like if we come together, different protocols that believe that blockchain can create this change, and we work together and present a united front, I think that we have better chances.
Thank you so much. With that, we come to the round of put an end to the questions, but just to conclude this panel as well. Like that being said, for me, what was blockchain for good? It's just the idea that we have the power of community and it's more citizenry driven, which has been absent from our systems for a very long time. And also, like you said, institutional actors today are also a lot of people who have amassed experience. While experience is good, sometimes it excludes youth, it excludes a young generation that is capable of problem solving as well. So I think what this world, especially like Web3, has allowed us it has allowed for more inclusivity, especially for problem solving, but also has shown us that power of community can really bring projects to scale, right? Which is like with public services. If I want a lamppost in a dark street in my locality, I should be able to vote for it, raise funds for it, as well as build it, right? So it's bringing power back to people, and I think truly that's what you're trying to do with your projects here. Just to end, we have the last 5 minutes, but with the projects that you're building, in one sentence or two, what would you say, is like the dream goal of it?
Can I go first?
Yeah? More trees in the world, yeah.
Yeah, 1 billion trees every year planted. No, but really what I see Veritree developing into is the trustless layer of verifying that work has been done on the ground. So if I am in the middle of, northern Canada and I plant 100,000 trees, I should have a way to submit that work as either a record or eventually maybe a carbon credit or something, and then Veritree would be the verification and authentication that has actually been done, cross-referenced with maybe satellite or other services which are in place in that area. But this trustless layer of actually verifying that the work has been done without sending auditors or sending people or spending more energy to check on that work, but it's a rather big problem that we're trying to solve.
Anybody else?
World Mobile. World Mobile wants to build a global mobile network operator that is run, owned, and governed by the people. Because when we're together, we're unstoppable. And that's the reality of it all. So we're building a model that will explode from Zanzibar. We'll get the sharing economy right there, and everybody can be a part of this. And that's what's going to make the change. We don't rely on the United Nations. We need their support. We ask for their support. We don't rely on them. We don't rely on any other institution. We don't rely on the existing mobile network operators. Because with our hands, a little bit of dirt on our hands, and a little bit of love from our heart, and an incentive, financial, from a multi-trillion-dollar industry, boom, we fix the problem.
That's very optimistic. I think I'm going to cue for a video right now, which is the Nike one, which is we're unstoppable together, right? And then we all walk out of here super pumped to create change in the world. Does anybody else want to add to that?
I'm just going to jump in there because I think that the approach is different because I don't work with one project in particular, but I think that from both IOTA and INATPA with our own communities, I think that I would like to see them being with the resources that they need to actually deploy these solutions. I'm always super curious to see what is going to be the next project, because I don't think the impact is going to come for the players out there, but actually for those community projects that are in those regions or in those communities, deploying the solutions together with them.
Yeah. Marcus, you want to add something?
Yeah, on Cello, we want to create the conditions for prosperity for everyone, and this means we need a world that still exists, where even these that are financially excluded today can live healthy in a few years from now, and therefore these two areas, social impact / financial inclusion, climate impact, climate solutions, are extremely important, and therefore it's important that all the communities in Web3 move further together and help with that and work on these things.
Great. Tyler, last word from you?
Yeah, I think ultimately it's about creating the tools that allow for trustless collaboration, that empower the folks that have a eye-level view of whichever problem they are trying to solve, so that they can solve that in a trustless manner and in a collaborative manner. And that's ultimately our goal. We want to revolutionize the way value is transacted and revolutionize the way in which collaboration happens.
With that being said, a word of gratitude to our panelists today for sharing the work that they do and for creating change in the communities that they're involved with, as well as this community here. Thank you so much for joining us in Auditorium C today. I wish you all a very sunny Sunday, connecting, collaborating, and a day full of learning. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.